Today I want to show you a knitted on border tutorial. So I've got a body swatch here. We're going to pretend this is like the body of the shawl, and I've actually attached a different color yarn to work the border. So depending on your pattern, you might end up using the same yarn, at which point, you don't actually have to like tie a knot or join them or anything like that. I just tied it in an overhand knot. It gives me something to pull against when I'm casting on the stitches. Then I usually undo the knot before I weave in ends. But we can get started like this. So actually I'm just going to do a backward loop cast on, or a thumb cast, because it's easy to do in a line with everything else. And let's see, I think I need 17 stitches. Let me double check. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry about that clinking. That is the dangling end of my needle hitting my tripod leg. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And of course, you could do a cable cast on. You could do a bunch of other inline cast ons. And for this, I'm actually just going to use this border chart from my foliage shawl. So I've got that out of camera, and let me double check the stitches I need. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of rows of just garter stitch as an edge. The pattern, your pattern will have exactly how you're supposed to be dealing with that. So let's see, a little splitty with the cast on. As with always with this cast on, you have to be a little tricky to try to keep tension even along that edge. It tends to feed extra into the stitches later on, and you get, spacing like this, which is wonky. But since this is a demo piece, it doesn't really matter. Usually I would recommend a cable cast on instead of a backward loop for this kind of thing. Okay, and your pattern may have you using markers, may not. I generally have my patterns with a knitted on border have a marker right between, well, one stitch into the border stitches. So let me get there and then I'll tell you where it would be. I think it's a little helpful so you remember to join your border to your body. Yeah, this cast on is kind of a pain in the ass. Okay, so normally I would have a marker here, so you can see there's one border stitch left and then body stitches. So at this juncture I am going to knit these two together. Okay, so this is the first joining of body and border. So it's a little hard to see with the knot in there, but you can see that there are the two stitches, one of each color, being knit together. So I turn and I slip this stitch, and then I'm going to knit all the way back, which is going to go much faster now that it's not the cast on edge. And your pattern, of course, is going to, vary, but it'll tell you whether you're supposed to start this at the end of a right side row or the end of a wrong side row. So I began this at the end of a wrong side row, which actually is not right for this chart. So we're going to end up building the border, attaching it to the back of this. So we'll get there. All right, so now I'm actually working, let's see, I got one more of these, and then I can work from the chart. So we will knit again all the border stitches till we get to the point where we have one border stitch and one body stitch. And then I'm going to work those two together. And actually, let's work them together through the back loop gives an extra twist to them, and it puts the border stitch on top. Okay? So you can see from the one below, the body stitch was on top, and in this one, the border stitch is on top. So depending on which decrease you use at the juncture between border and body, you'll get a different look. So I've turned the work around, and I'm going to slip this one, and then I'm going to start my lace pattern. So I have a knit 2. All of the even numbered rows for this pattern start with a slip and work outward from the body. For this pattern, the odd numbered rows work in toward the body and start with the garter stitch edge. As we near the inside edge, that drops us again right here with one border stitch next to the body stitches. And I'll work those two together. Okay, and so I knit them through the back loop so you can see that, again, that the border stitch is on top. And then turn and slip and work back across. I'm going to work a few repeats on this and then come back and show you what's going on. Alright, so I've just worked one repeat. It's a little hard to see the pattern yet, but you can kind of get what's going on here. And something interesting is starting to happen. So you see how the fabric is like folding over. So we're working it as if it's one straight set of stitches, but in reality the border is attaching perpendicular to the body stitches. So every time we do that decrease at the join of border and body, it's really giving it a half turn, and it's almost like we're binding off these body stitches. So my repeat of my border chart is 10 rows, and I did 2 joins of garter, so we should have 7 stitches being eaten up by the border, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 2 in the garter, 6 and 7. So for a total of 14 rows with our cast on row, and then knitting back and attaching in garter, and then up and back and attaching in garter, plus the 10 rows of the repeat, we've taken up 7 stitches. So I'm going to keep working and join you back in a second. Okay, so at this point I've got 2 repeats plus my edging. And again, you can see that it's building perpendicular to the body stitches. And this is where it gets a little interesting. You can see that this edge is flaring a little bit. One of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're doing something like this is that the gauge of 2 rows for your border should be equal to the blocked gauge of 1 stitch. So, like, if your blocked gauge for the body was, say, 5 stitches per inch, right? Then you would want your blocked gauge for your border to be 10 rows per inch, so that you have a 2-to-1 ratio. Now, these yarns are a little bit different. I just grabbed them for swatching. If gauge is an issue and you've tried to sample and blocked it and it's still flaring a little bit, or ruffling the border edge, you could go down a needle size on the border. You can also work this with double points. So you would have a double point here and then a single needle for the body, but then you end up trying to, you have to slip stitches over onto the double points from the holder for the body. It gets a little complicated. I like to work it with one continuous circular like this, but you could very easily change out the tips if you're using an interchangeable set for a different size, or slip everything onto a different size needle, slip the whole body onto a different size needle to work the border in a different size. But that gives you a general idea of how a knitted on border works. So from this side you can see that the stitches hide where the join is, and from this side it makes a big obvious line, And you can kind of see the other color come through on this space between the columns. Whether you want that, want this look or this look is up to you. It's less of an issue if you're using the same body color as border color, but even though you're just knitting like it's regular inline, you end up with something that attaches perpendicular to the body of the work. I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day.